Good evening. Thank you for joining us on this 23rd anniversary of the September 11th attacks. Every year, students learn about that fateful day and the events that unfolded, with local school districts creating special lesson plans for their students. Fox Illinois' Monique Davis is working for you to share the preparations school districts made to educate students about this historic event. Monique.
I sat down with staff from District 186 and Williamsville-Sherman, and they emphasized the importance of making sure students of this current generation understand the significance of how this event impacted history.
It's been such a long time ago that we need to make sure that we remember the events that occurred, unfortunately, on that day, and provide that information and instruction in our classrooms.
At 8:46 Wednesday morning, the entire Sherman School District observed a moment of silence to commemorate the events of 9/11. Inside the classroom, history teachers like Josh Scranton engaged students in discussion about the aftermath of 9/11 and what effects it still has today.
First hour, we talked about September 12th, right? That unity that we saw as a nation, right? We haven't really seen a whole lot of things like that since then. Second hour, that kind of moved into questions about immigration. With these big events going on, with the security, things like that, how are things like this still able to happen? So third hour, they brought up the question of gun violence.
Scranton says remembering 9/11 goes beyond one day.
A lot of people think it's just past the past, we're in the now, right? But I always try and connect things that happened back then into what's going on right now.
In District 186, teachers like Andy Volpert share CNN news coverage so students can see in real time how many lives were affected.
It started at 8:49 a.m. when the first plane hit, when people thought it was an accident. And then we show the second plane, then the Pentagon, and then we end with the Flight 93 crashing in Pennsylvania. And so they're able to see in 9 minutes the course of how it went from, oh my gosh, what a terrible accident, to, oh, now we're at war.
Volpert also makes sure to connect with students on a personal level.
People who are their parents' and grandparents' age may have been in New York City that day. And what would they have done if they'd been a fireman, or if they'd been above the impact zone of the Twin Towers, or what if they'd been on Flight 93? What would they have done if they found out that 3 other planes had been kidnapped that morning, and you might be on the 4th one?
Williamsville-Sherman Superintendent Tip Reedy says English teachers also created writing prompts leading up to today. Reporting live in Springfield, I'm Monique Davis.
Thank you, Monique. The Sherman School District also read a statement to students to commemorate Patriot Day. And employees at ADM in Decatur honoring first responders by taking on the 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb by doing 28 laps of stairs at the Hampton Inn. And the stair climb is not the only thing they do to honor those that lost their lives that day.
We try really hard while we're here to have things that you can see and interact and feel while you're here. We have pieces that were at the World Trade Centers at Ground Zero. We have a flag for every person who lost their life. 2,977 people died, and we have an American flag for every single one of them.
Those 28 laps are equal to the 144 flights of stairs the first responders climbed on that day in 2001. And first responders also receiving a free lunch from 343 Barbecue at South and Central Parks in Decatur. The annual event is just another way the community looks to honor our first responders on 9/11. It was also open to the public, where they could buy a lunch, with the proceeds helping to provide more food for those first responders. 23 years later, and the images that 9/11 brings still haunts first responders and those who witnessed the attacks. Fox Illinois' Carolina Hassett got a chance to talk to a man who was not only a witness that day, but spent 6 months helping with recovery efforts.
Looked at this lady and I said, again, I says, "Did you find your loved one?" And she looked at me and she shook her head. She said, "No, we never found my daughter."
Richard Tersey lived in Brooklyn during the 9/11 terror attacks. He tells me he relives the painful memories every year.
Sometimes I have nightmares.
Tersey said that morning felt like just a normal day until he saw a plane flying low near the towers.
We looked up and you just seen the guy flying the plane. That's how low it was. And the plane was just going like from side to side, across the Hudson River, and then bang into the other tower.
Terzi worked at a warehouse nearby and was asked to help first responders with the cleanup and recovery efforts. He spent 20 hours a day going through rubble, taking what needed to be burned to the sanitation facility, including seeing victims who were killed in the attacks.
You went into that room, it was all metal tables with different kind of body parts on it. 1 minute.
Moments, he says, will live in his mind forever.
Seeing a shoe. And like I was coming out of the thing, coming out of one of the piles, and I walked over and I pulled this thing out. It was a bottom part of a little girl.
Terzi says his family got him through that painful time, and while it was the first time in a long time the state of New York came together, he'll never forget the aftermath.
It's still have hate in my heart and sadness.
That was Carolina Hassett reporting. Terzi says he remembers his name being mentioned during a session of Congress when they dedicated a day to read off all of the names who helped during that time. Don't miss a video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel today for more Central Illinois news.